So our instructors are industry certified experts owning more than 10 plus years of domain expertise. We have so far trained more than 410K students around the globe to excel in their careers. We often update our course content every quarter to keep you up to date with modern industry demands and skills and as per your project requirements. We deliver best in class training for both individual students and corporates worldwide. About the Java Spring Training and Certification course, MindMajix Java Spring Training will help you learn all the fundamentals of Spring Framework from scratch to develop web-based applications. You will gain in-depth knowledge of Spring, Spring MVC, Hibernate, Spring Security, JDBC, Spring Boot, Microservices, and more through practical executions. So this training also offers two real-time projects to boost your developer skills and clear the Java Spring certification exam. If you want to refer the course curriculum, you can just visit this link and go through the course content. So the agenda that we are going to cover for this webinar is in front of you. So that what is Spring Framework, then we are going to see list of Java frameworks available, advantages of the Java framework, then what is Spring Framework and its supporting programming languages, why Spring, why is Spring so popular, why Spring Framework, or you can say Java Spring Framework's environment setup, modules, what all modules are there in the Spring Framework. Then we will see what is IOC and dependency injection. So whenever we are going to have a loosely coupled application, so we are going to use the Spring Framework. So understanding of this terminology and concept is most important thing, so that we will be going through. Next part, what we need to understand are the bins. Okay, so far being Java developer, so many of you must be working on Java, many of you must be new to this, but those who know Java, those who know object oriented concepts, they will better understand what are the bins in the Spring. So bins are nothing but the objects that are managed by the Spring. So if you know the object oriented concepts, you will be able to get this as well. Next part is the Spring Boot. We need to understand what is Spring Boot. You can say extension over the existing Spring framework. So it makes your application building easier and in a faster way. So how it is going to help, that part also we will be going through. So we'll be creating a small program in Spring Boot just to understand how to create the application, then how to deploy this, how it is helping for the developers for faster application development. Next part, as the Spring developer, or you can say the backend developer, you must know the Docker as well. So we'll be seeing the introduction to Docker. Then most of the industries, if you refer any job portals on your job sites, right? So you'll see what are the different job portals you can visit. You'll be able to see whenever the companies ask for the Spring developer, they mention the developer should know Docker as well as the microservices as well, because most of the companies now just moving or migrating their monolithic applications to the microservices. So understanding of microservices is also important part. So we will be looking after. Then we will be going through what are the career and job rising opportunities for the Java or Spring developers. And then we will have at last 10-15 minutes for the QA session. Okay, so let's try to understand first what is framework. Okay, a framework is a body of pre-written code that acts as a template or skeleton which a developer can use to create an application by filling in their own code as needed to get the app to work as they intend it to, right? So we use frameworks because frameworks are going to simplify our tasks, right? So we know programming languages, we know how to work with the business logic, we write the business logic using that programming languages. Now on top of this, we need something that can make our task easier. Okay, so that is what the framework is going to help us. So you can see a framework is created to be used over and over so that developers can program their application without the manual overhead of creating every line of code from scratch. As I said, lot many things or the features and facilities over will be provided by the frameworks to you whenever you are working on the applications, right? So we will see that how the Spring framework is helping us to do this. Then if you look at the list of Java frameworks, you have different frameworks available: Spring, Struts, JSF, Vadin, and the Google Web Toolkit. So, okay, if you look at this, there is a huge requirement for the Spring developers, right? So different frameworks available, so you can just have a look at that. But we are going to see the Spring framework in detail. Next, advantages of the Java frameworks, you can see security, support, efficiency, and expense. Now, when it comes to security, so when we are dealing with this framework like Spring, it is going to provide us the dependencies and through which we will have all the features required for the security implementation available easily for us. Then support, if you look at the Java community, right, there is a huge community. So easily the support will be available for any of the implementation that you require. If you look at the efficiency, right, you can work efficiently on the Spring framework. Expense, if you consider, the companies will have to bear very low cost because the framework is providing lot many things or features for the faster application development. Okay, so now why Spring is so popular? Spring is popular because of the Java's dominance in the market, then the various features provided by the Spring, as well as the Spring Boot, that is the extension to the Spring, which is helping for the faster application development as well as the deployment. Next, for the setup point of view, we need Java 8 and above. Okay, if you want to work with this boot, we need to prefer Java 8 and above. Then we can work with IDEs like IntelliJ, NetBeans, STS, Eclipse, VS Code, whichever you are comfortable with. And next is the initializer tool. Okay, so for creation of the project, we use this tool, Spring Initializer. It will help you to build a project in no time. Within seconds, you can develop your project and actually start working on the project as early as possible. Okay, then what are the modules available in the Spring framework? You can see the Spring Core. We have the data access integration part. Now, when it comes to Spring Core, you can say it is the foundational thing of building your loosely coupled applications using Spring. And data access and data integration refers to having integration of your framework with any of your DBMS, any of your relational DBMS, or you can say non-relational DBMS. Now, when it comes to the web module, it provides features like you can say the model view controller, right? If you want to have implementation of Spring Web MVC, so for this we need the web dependency web module as well, important module you can say of the Spring framework. Next is the AOP, that is aspect oriented programming. It is similar to, you can say, triggers what you have in the database. If you have worked on triggers, you will be able to understand this concept very easily. Now, it is almost similar to what you have learned from the Java, that is object oriented concepts. Similar, you need to understand the terminology inside this to understand what is aspect oriented programming. Next, you have this separate framework as the test framework for testing your application, that is the JUnit and the TestNG. So these are the overall, you can say, a very brief module of the Spring framework. Now, what exactly the Spring framework is going to do? It is going to help us in building loosely coupled applications. Now, for building loosely coupled applications, we need to understand the terminology of inversion of control and dependency injection. Now, if you look at inversion of control, right? Inversion of control is a principle in software engineering by which the control of objects or portions of a program is transferred to a container or framework. Okay, used in context of object oriented programming only. Fine. So now this is a theoretical aspect. Now to understand this terminology, you need to understand, you need to go through the code. You will have a better understanding of how this inversion of control. So in simple words, if you say inversion of control means giving the access to someone else, and for us, the someone else is going to be the container. So container is going to manage the objects for us. So object creation task is given to someone, and that someone, that is the container. Okay, next, the dependency injection. Here it is the design pattern or the process using which the responsibility of creating objects is shifted from our application code to the Spring container. So you need to understand inversion of control and dependency injection for building loosely coupled applications. Okay, next, the Spring Beans. What are Spring Beans? So as I said earlier, Spring Bean is an object which Spring Framework manages at runtime. A Spring Bean is a basic building block of any Spring application. So whenever you want to work with the Spring application, you need to understand Spring Bean. Okay, it is the heart of the application. Then how you can configure this, how you can define? You can define by using XML based configuration or the annotations. So better now, you can refer the annotations if you want to get rid of the XML based configuration, because annotations help us in faster application development. Next, we will be seeing how to create a simple application. Okay, now there are two ways to create the application. One way is the manual way, that you can go through your IDE, create the project, or you can straight away go to the initializer tool and you can create project for you. Okay, so we will see a simple application. We will see how to build a very simple Spring based application. Okay, so I'll go to the initializer. So here you can see you can use this tool available, where you can get the readily project available for you, and you can just focus on the actual business logic rather than the configuration of the things. So we have two options. One is the Maven project and another is the Gradle. Okay, so these two are nothing but the build automation tools. Okay, so we can study this, means we need to have thorough understanding of these tools as well, because whenever you want to work with the Spring based applications, you have to either use Maven or project as the build tool. Okay, so right now I'm selecting Gradle. Okay, next I'm selecting the Spring Boot version as 2.3.0, as it's a stable version available. I can select that. Next, I need to specify the package. So I'll specify the package as I need to provide the artifact. So artifact will become your project name as well. Okay, so here you can see you will get this as the base package name. Okay, now packaging, how you want to get your file, whether you want to jar file, whether you want to war file. Okay, you have the options. So straight away Spring Boot recommends jar, so I'm selecting jar. Okay, next, the Java version, what you want to use, you can select that. Currently I'm keeping it as Java 8 only. Okay, now as I want to work on a Spring based application, okay, so I will add the dependencies required for the web based application development. That is, I need the web dependency. Okay, next dependency, I'll consider this dev tools. I'll explain you this why we are going to use this dev tools. So right now, as we are trying to create a simple hello world kind of application using this, okay, we will see Spring web dependency we have added, and also we have added the dev tools dependency. So after this, you can just click on generate. Okay, so you'll get a zip file. So you can just go, you can extract that, okay, and come to your IDE. You can just open it. Just a minute, I've opened a different one. Webinar demo. Okay, so I will just select that webinar demo. Just wait, and that is not getting copied. I'll just get it to my desktop. Okay, yes. So we have opened the project in the ID. You can just check it over here. Okay, so we have got all the structure ready. If you expand this, you can see all the dependencies required for your project will get downloaded. Okay, so you can see here build.gradle file. Okay, so this is the Gradle file build file. As we have selected the Gradle project, you can see over here we have added the required dependencies, that is the web dependency, and also we have added the dependency as dev tools. Okay, so whatever you add, so whatever dependencies you need or whatever modules, spring modules you want to use, you can add the dependency over here, and that particular module you can start using. For example, if you want to go with the database integration, you want to have your spring application to be integrated with any of your database, right? So straight away you can add the dependency over here and you can start integrating your application with the DBMS. So just the part that would be pending once you add the dependency over here will be the configuration. Just you need to add the configurations to your properties file and you can proceed for the business logic, right? So we will see this demo. So once we get all the required dependencies downloaded, okay, so you can see this, we have the main class also available for us. And whenever you are going to create the application using this initializer, you will be having this class available to you. So this is the main class, you can say, where we have the main method and we have the run method over here, which is static run method, and Spring application dot class. This class name is used to call this method, returning us the application context. Okay. Now what this application context means, we will see that. Just so till then I'll write the code over here. So we need to wait till it finishes. Till then, let's see the Spring Boot application. If you see, this is the annotation based configuration. Now this add Spring Boot application internally uses 3 different annotations. Okay, it uses the annotations. You can see this. We need to wait till this completes. Just a minute, guys. I'll just restart my ID. I'll reopen this project. I will write a simple method over here till then. Spring data. Okay, so I'm providing the annotation over here. Now let's see how we can deploy the application, and the client is going to send some request to the server, right? So how the server is going to respond to the request that will come to it. Okay, so just I will write a simple message over here. Hello Spring. Okay, so you can just see, and here on top of this class, I'm going to specify one more annotation as this. Now, if you look at the Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot is helping us to build faster application, right? So we have created the project. If you see, we created the project, and what is the environment that we need? So only we have Java installed on the system, right? And I have created the project using the initializer. I have opened the project over here, and I have written a simple one small method over here. Okay. Now what I'm saying over here, this is your handler method. You are providing the HTTP gate, or we are using the HTTP gate method. Okay. We are passing this particular as the path or the URL, you can say, and we have marked this particular class as the REST controller. Now what we want once we run this code, okay, as Spring Boot is helping us to get rid of the XML based configurations, and it is helping us for the faster application development, right? That is one part. And also you can see nowhere we have configured the separate application server, right? So whenever you are going to work on the web-based applications, you need the application server to be configured, right? You must be knowing, right? Tomcat, or you can say Undertow, JT, right? So different application servers available. So here you can see nowhere we have configured that separately. Whenever we create a Spring Boot application, we will be having this Tomcat internally available for us. So by default, Tomcat is the application server, okay, available for us. So whenever you are creating a Spring Boot project, you no need to worry about configuration of the things. Okay. Now, suppose I want to change my port, I can straight away go to this. I can specify the port, suppose 9003. Okay, I want to change the port. If you don't change, by default Tomcat will run on 8080. Okay, so might be there any process running on 8080 on my system, so I'm changing the port to 9003. Okay, now if you look at this, now let's run this application. Okay, as I'm using Gradle, so I'm using the Gradle command over here to run the application. Okay, so you can see Tomcat started on port 903. Okay, so you can see over here Tomcat has started. So as here we have not provided any context path, so the providing context path also can be done. You need to specify in one property in the application.properties file, so you can have context path whatever you need. Okay, but right now we are not adding that. Okay, now let's see how we can send the request. So you can come to the browser and just type localhost colon 9003 slash and say check. Okay, so you can see here we got this string as hello spring. So you must have seen within no time we were able to work on the spring based project, right? So nowhere we have much deal with the configuration side. The Spring Boot is going to take care of the configuration part for you. You just need to focus on the actual business logic. So whatever business logic you want to write, you can just focus and leave all the configuration part to the Spring to manage it. Okay, so you can see within no time. That is what the Spring Boot says. If you look at the definition or the features of the Spring Boot, you'll able to see all the features. Okay, it has said how you can build your application within no time and deploy it within no time, right? So here this application is ready for deployment. Okay, so this application is ready for deployment. You can see over here straight away if you want to deploy this application. Okay, so you can have a jar file straight away. You can use this command gradle build and you will get a deployable jar file which you can copy to the server and run your application. Okay, so you can come to the build directory. You can see here libs and you will get this jar file. So this jar file you can deploy it. Fine. So just we have seen how to work with the Spring Boot. So it is helping us for faster application development. So I'll come back. Right. So here we have seen how to create the project using the initializer. I have not shown you the manual way. If you create the manual project through your IDE, you need to add the dependencies, you need to create your main class. So all this stuff you need to create and you'll be wasting your time into configuration and managing the things. So we are not going with the manual thing. Just you can use the initializer tool available, and you can create your project which is readily deployable project available. Just write your business logic and you can proceed. Now here, if you look at this, I have added one more dependency, that is the dev tools, right? So if you look at this, so we added two dependencies. We added one is web and another is dev tools. Now how this dev tools is helping? Now suppose if you come to the project here, suppose I'm changing something over here. I'm changing some, okay. And if you're running this, just wait, I need to first run this application. Okay, so if you're doing any changes in your code, you no need to restart your application again and again. Means the Spring Boot, the DevTools dependency that we have added, that will take care of the live reload of your application. Now, suppose I want to change it. Okay, you can just see I'm not rerunning the application. Auto restart. Yes, so it has restarted. So whatever, again, it is helping the developers to focus on the business logic rather than you restarting your application server and managing all this stuff. Okay, so this is how the Spring framework or the Spring Boot is helping for the faster application development. Fine. Next, we are going to see the Docker. Again, it's altogether a different tool, you can say, but essential from the industry point of view, essential as a developer point of view. If you want to work as a backend developer or the Spring developer, you now the companies, they have started demanding for these tools like the Docker. You must be knowing Kubernetes as well, right? So what is Docker? Docker is an open source containerization platform, and it enables developers to package applications into containers, standardize executable components that combine application source code with all the operating system libraries and dependencies required to run the code in any environment. Fine. So what exactly the containerization, what containers are? See, containers are like the virtual machines, right? Containers don't carry the payload of an entire OS instance. They include only the OS processes and dependencies necessary to execute the code. So that you no need to worry about. Sometimes it may happen that the developer is working on the system, so whatever code he has written, he can just test it on his system, and if it is taken to the production, that times you may face that some configuration changes or all this stuff may take place. To avoid that, mostly we prefer using the Docker, right? So what it is going to provide us, it is going to include all the processes and dependencies necessary to execute the code. Means it is going to manage the environment for us. Next, you can see greater resource efficiency also. With containers, you can run several times as many copies of an application on the same hardware as you can using virtual machines. So this can reduce your cloud spending. So you can create a number of instances, copies of the same application to be deployed. Next, improved developer productivity. Compared to VMs, containers are faster and easier to deploy, provision, right, and restart. This makes them ideal for use in continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines, and a better fit for development teams adopting agile and DevOps practices. Now, this is very theoretical aspect. Not if you consider, if you want to learn Docker, there are a lot many things available to learn. It's a huge, you can say, syllabus available. Now you can go through the commands available, how to do the setup of this, how you can integrate this with your Spring application. All this stuff need to be seen in thorough so that you can smoothly work with the Dockers. Next part is the microservices. If you look at any company job portals, right, any company requirements or different job portals, you will see everywhere now there is requirement for the microservices, right? So whatever companies initially they have worked with the monolithic applications, most of the companies now they are migrating their applications to the microservices. Now what this microservices is, so it's a software development technique, you can say a variant of the service oriented architecture structural style that arranges an application as a collection of loosely coupled services. Now, if you look at the monolithic application, if you look at this diagram, right, you can see you have the UI layer, you have the business logic, data access layer, and the database, right? Now, it's very difficult to manage a huge application, right? So the companies now, they are coming with the architecture where this bigger application can be broken down into small services, small pieces, you can say, right? And you can say it can be your polyglot as well. Now, polyglot means what? If you look at the applications like Facebook, right? So as a front end, right, at the front end, you will feel like it is developed, right, in one technology, but at the back end, it has n number of technology stack, right? Different functionality developed in different technology stack. So that is what, again, the flexibility you have whenever you are working with the microservices. Now, to understand microservices, there are different components available where you will be, means you need to understand all the components thoroughly. Now, when it comes to the industry, it may not be possible that you will be allowed to work on all the components of the microservices. But if you want to become a good developer, you, if suppose you are going to the manager level, lead level, you need to understand these architectures and components thoroughly. So microservice environment, again, very booming in the you can say the software industry. You look at any job portal or any company job descriptions, everywhere, wherever there is a requirement for Java or Spring developer, they have mentioned this Docker, microservices, Kubernetes is must. Okay, so you need to understand this. So this is all now theoretical aspect, but when it comes to the coding sessions, you need to understand how the service to service communication will take place, how one service will send, receive data, right, to the other. Like you can see in the diagram, service to service communication is going to be there. And each microservice, whenever you're going to have, right, that may or may not share a single database, means every service will have its own database. So whenever suppose service one needs anything from the service two, it cannot directly communicate with the database of the service two. It has to communicate with the service two application, which will get the data and then return it back. So this is how the overall architecture has to be. Now this architecture, you cannot say it has to be in this way only, means it depends on your actual business logic, means what exactly scenario, what implementation you want to have. Based on that, you need to design this architecture. But before you design, you need to understand what all different components are available in the microservices. You need to study or understand that components first. Fine. So guys, done from my side. If you have any queries, questions, you can just ask.
Hello.
Yes.
Abhi, I'm Yogesh here.
Yes.
Can you give me some real life example like monolithic application and microservices applications,
Right. Yes.
which are
Now consider
currently
you
in
want to
use?
work on. Yes. Yes. See, if suppose you are considering an enterprise level application, right? Enterprise level application means consider I'm developing an application for the dealership management. Okay, suppose you consider brand names like you have different this thing, Toyota, you have different Mercedes, Audi, they have different dealerships available in different countries, right? Now, if you look at the overall process, if I want to develop a system for this kind of overall management, you can see there are different process involved. There is import export involved, there is finance department involved, there is, you can say, the dealers involved where they can send the orders, right? Then you can say there may be spares department involved. So if you look at all these things, right, so they are independent, right? If I club all these things and I deploy it as a single application, my whole team need to work, right? Again, the integration is going to be a challenging part. Again, if suppose I want to do some any modifications in any of the module, I need to bring my whole application down. Again, I need to redeploy this. Now if I separate all these modules, or if I have a small services for all these things, it becomes easier for me from the management point of view as well, and enhancement point of view, the deployment point of view, all this stuff. Another example I'll give you, the e-commerce platform like Amazon, or you can say different platforms where you can uh, buy the products, right? There also you can see there are n number of things involved. You have the product listing separate, right? You have the internal backend management team separate, which is going to manage the supply chain, right? All these things, if you look at now, supply chain nothing to do with the end user who is going to purchase the product, right? So but altogether it is a single application for the end user, right? End user will not understand, okay, how the architecture or how the things are going to be built or how it is built. As a
Right.
developer, we need to understand how I can separate the things and have it in a small services so that it is manageable for us.
Okay. So, uh, let's another one. If there will be
Yes.
the old monolithic application I have, and
Mm-hmm.
I have go for
Mm-hmm.
the micro. So as per the developer perspective, what can the approach I can use, or what are the process? I mean, how can I start for the
See,
converting
firstly,
it to the microservices?
see, firstly, you need to understand why there is a need for you to convert or migrate your monolithic application to the microservices. First, you need to understand, is there any need? Okay, is there any dependency, or is there any changes I'm continuously doing to my project and it is creating some problems while the redeployment of it, right? So all this
Yeah,
stuff you need to consider. And again, if you want to break it into small pieces, you need to develop in such a way that one module will not affect the other, right? If I need
right,
to
right.
change anything at the backend for some module, it will not affect the other, right? If you want this kind of smoothness, this kind of functionality, right, you can break down, understand your whole logic, business, understand your business thoroughly, and then break it down into small pieces. That will be manageable for you. And independent teams can work on the independent modules, right? So there will be
Right,
no
right.
any this thing in the code integration as well. So all this stuff that will be considered. But here again, you need to understand the different components, right? Now you want to have a separate logging system for your application, so you have
Yeah,
flexibility to add any of you can say analytics system or plugins to your application, so that becomes independent for you to manage. Now there may be possibility that you want to work on the microservices, and but you want to develop such an application where suppose you may find Java is not best for this kind of functionality. You have flexibility in the microservices where you can add node, right? You can work with the node. So one module you have developed using node, one developed using, suppose you have flexibility, polyglot. You can say polyglot means any technology, any programming language you can use for building this kind of architecture. Means whichever is
oh,
better for that particular functionality, based on that you can decide. But when it comes to Java based, right, you have only Spring Cloud as the option for you, right? Spring Cloud,
yeah.
using Spring Cloud you can build the microservices. And as we have seen the
Oh,
Spring Boot part, right? So Spring Boot part is going to help you in building the microservices or the building the architecture in a faster and better way.
yeah, yeah. Got
Yes,
it.
any other
Yeah.
questions?
Not from outside. Is there any another classes for the further Spring applications development?
Or
What are the what are the timing of the next classes for the more advanced in the Spring?
so yes. So our team will get back to you on this. You can connect with our team, so they will get
Oh,
back to you. So you can just connect with any of our team members, so they will on the timings and the course content and overall things. And whatever sessions we do conduct all practical sessions. We don't much focus on the theoretical aspects, we do focus on the practical things, so that you will be able to understand how the actual things work, right?
oh,
So we leave the theoretical aspects mostly to the candidates to study, and we do focus on the practical and implementation things.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Avi.
Yes, any other questions?
No, no, no. Thank you.
Yes. So if you want to reach out, you can just note the information over here. Okay, so you can contact us if you are looking for any technology support, if you are looking for any training, if you want to upgrade your skills, you can definitely reach out to us and we will be happy to serve you. Thank you guys.